good day, good afternoon, good night. How you doing? This is MCM and you're listening to You're Probably Right. Today we are going to have a serious conversation. Well, maybe not a serious conversation, but there's going to be a serious talk happening here. Now, of course, I'm only doing the talking, but just stay tuned. Yo, all right. How you doing? This is You're Probably Right, and I am your host, MCM. Okay, everything's off a little bit here. I'm trying to get my wires to not be rubbing on my arm, and see if I can pull this. Okay, hopefully the microphone's close enough. I feel a little lag, a little latency, which is always a little annoying, so I might click that off so I don't have to sit there listening to myself. So I sound way better now, to me anyways. And I guess that's what kind of matters at this point. Okay, we're going to talk about a couple things here, y'all. And let's see how it goes. But first, you know what I kind of wondered? And, you know, to make my podcast, by the way, if, you know, you're wondering, you're out there and you say, you know what, I think I want to start a podcast as well. What I do, which I don't even know if it was true, but I used to watch this show called Seinfeld, if you ever heard of that show. And obviously you heard of it. Well, most of you probably heard of it. But I remember Jerry turning over sometimes and writing down some random nonsense on a notepad and then trying to decipher or figure out what he meant at 3:00 in the morning when he wrote down whatever it is he wrote down. But from that, and I think I've probably heard other people say they do it too. As soon as they get an idea, they write it down. And I started doing that a little while ago for songs. Sometimes I would get lyrics. I would just start singing and I would get these lyrics that just sounded cool, and I could just sing for a good 10, 15 minutes, maybe even, of like throwing different lyrics in there, keeping the same chorus and everything like that. And, you know, sometimes it'd be like, you know, walking in the rain and I happen to be taking a long walk home or something like that, and everything just sounds amazing. It's like, man, I wish I had a notepad or something to put this into. But the one thing I will say for the iPhone or any other smartphone, I suppose, is that you can just pull it open and just either you can speak it right into it or you can text it right in there and just leave it in your notepad for later. So basically, that's what I do with my podcast. I have these thoughts. You know, it could be me watching TV or just experiencing situations or having some type of a interaction with another person. And you know, it kind of, you know, something that really like weighs on you to think about a little bit or to express or to share with others. And, you know, that's generally how my podcast starts. You know, each episode is like I have something on my mind and I write it down. I jot it down whenever there's a nice, interesting conversation or an interesting thought. And then, you know, it goes from there. So speaking about that, I will also say that welcome to my podcast. This is You're Probably Right, as I already said before, but I didn't say you're welcome in my house anytime, figuratively speaking, of course. Okay. So, and I would like to shout out to my first time listeners, my last time listeners, to everybody in between, and those who are just peeking in the doorway, trying to see what's going on inside there, and come on in. Stay for a while. That was my speaker made that weird noise just now. Cool. You know, so this is what my first thing I wanted to talk about. You know, what always interested me with people, you know, one thing, I guess, even as a small kid, were the people who liked the bad guys, like in the cartoons and movies and stuff like that, you know, and this actually brings me into my bigger topic. It's just like, and I'm going to give you some examples, and it's just a list here, and it happens to be on dailysuperhero.com or dailysuperheroes.com. I like to give my shout outs or my respect to the websites, even if, you know, I don't really do much on the website, but the fact that I'm using somebody compiled this list of 50 characters that people like, I figure it wouldn't be cool if just to give the person their respect, somebody spent hours on this list, obviously, maybe more. So number 1, Freddy Krueger. For people who, grew up, in the 80s or was a teenager in the 80s, remember Freddy Krueger a lot. And those movies were creepy. But it was interesting how many people liked Freddy Krueger. He didn't do nothing else but torture and terrorize people. Torturize? Yeah, I made up a new word. People in their sleep, and then sometimes they would get right into reality, and then it seems like when they thought they were in reality, they're sleeping, and he would fix their business, basically. Thanos, Mike Myers from the Halloween movies, the Joker, and I guess most recently the one played by Heath Ledger. Definitely a bad guy, definitely sadistic. I remember that pencil situation in that movie. Darth Vader, the Terminator. I'll give you a few of them. Hannibal Lecter, and sorry if you don't know these movies that these characters are from, but I mean, you can always Google them. It's very simple. Just type it in. Some people like Loki from the Marvel movies. Jason Voorhees, I guess his name was, in Friday the 13th movies. Maleficent. I can't even. Maleficent. And I didn't watch that movie. Norman Bates. Pinhead. General Zod. Superman. Pennywise. Chucky. Magneto. The Predator. Anyhow, it goes on and on and on. But anyways, the whole thing, it was just like really interesting to me because as a kid, for me, thinking about it, I never cared anything for the bad guys. But I always noticed there was certain people would literally say, I watched these movies for the bad guy. Like they were like that was their hero in the movie. And it just never seemed, I don't know if it's, the Christian belief system, the religion, the loving manner that I was taught that you're supposed to have for people. So just the fact that all of these characters that I've just read off and more were just out for blood, for lack of a better term, Shere Khan from the Jungle Book, or Jack Torrance from The Shining, and I think it was The Shining Jack Torrance was from. Yeah. And the list goes on and on. Even Bruce the shark from Jaws, but for some reason it's like they literally, people, how you would watch them, or most of us would watch the movie to see the good guy overcome. And it's not that you didn't want there to be some type of a conflict or some type of a character that, represented evil. And if anything, you wanted to go and see that. But part of the reason why you wanted to see that was to see the good guy overcome, or, where it gets close to the edge. But I also know people who were literally watching those close to the edge movies to see the good guy get demolished. And that was one thing that, I never really understood. I mean, I guess this would have been a good chance for me to actually speak to somebody about that, but I don't know very many people who were like that. But if you were, you got to ask yourself, why was I generally rooting for the bad guys in those superhero movies, or in, random dramas or horror movies or whatever it is, or action flicks, So that brought me on to something else. I had a conversation with my uncle this past week. I haven't talked to him for very, very much at all, I'll tell you the truth, in the last years. I have a love for him. He's my uncle, and I mean, there used to be some type of a family resemblance. It's funny how you sometimes either can't stand family members who look like you a little bit or a lot, or vice versa. That wasn't my point in saying that, but I just, because we don't look that much alike at all, really. But, growing up, you have different issues, and it's funny how we all have different perceptions in our lives. We sometimes think that, like I can tell you, I grew up thinking that, I'm growing up like it's like the Cosbys. It's like Brady Bunch. It's, my three sons. Everything's cool. Everybody loves each other. And, we're all working for one good. And I think, times growing up, I'm a 70s baby, but an 80s kid. It really did in the family, but in my family anyway, genuinely seemed that we were all pulling in the same directions. And if not for some types of, adversity and bad situations, everything would have always been normal. But you realize it's not always like that. And you grow up, and as you even, have your own kids and stuff like that, and you realize that perception is a serious thing. Because you'll raise your kids and think that you provided the most, or you believe that you checked in the most, and there's no way that your kid could have been bullied or abused. And then you find out not only were your kids bullied or abused, but somehow you had a part to play in that. And I'm telling you, not that, any of my kids have said that I've abused them, but when you find out, like I can say this, that I've been a party to them not maybe being able to be the best version of themselves because of something that I did or something that I lacked to do. And you realize as a parent how unqualified in some situations you were just because of who you were. And, it all kinds of goes back. What were your parents like? What kind of time did you have with your children? How much extra time in the evenings did you have for your children? Were you working 2 jobs and just trying to balance? Were your kids latchkey kids? Then there's the whole thing was each child is different. So what would work for, say, your son or your daughter doesn't necessarily work for the others. You understand? It's really, really, really interesting. And I just wanted to get into that a little bit. But, it's just so interesting. We grow up and it's like, are we good? Someone once said, I can't remember who said it. Actually, I'll read a little thing here. Actually, I won't tell you who said it, but it's like, I remember something, people are inherently good. I don't think so. But in that conversation with my uncle, this week, I said to him, he said, did I ever do anything to you? He said that, only certain people from the family came around, a certain one of my siblings. And I was like, yeah. And I said, yeah, I used to sometimes, like, he seemed like if something was wrong, he stated that he assumed that everything was cool, and he doesn't remember if I did anything. He doesn't remember me doing anything to him or him doing anything to me. But it's like, the funny thing is with life is you just don't know, or what you think is nothing could have been the world. So like what I could say was, as a kid, I was kind of dejected. Like what happened was I grew up, and sorry if I'm rambling, guys, but I guess anytime the emotions or the understanding, or you got a lot to say, and I guess I'm speaking about me, anytime I have a lot to say, or anytime it's a little bit emotional for me, then I start speaking quicker. And then I'm really here wondering if anybody's even getting what I'm saying. But when I was growing up, I was the youngest of my family. And when my cousins came from England with their mother, I was, again, younger than everybody in that family. So I was like, it was like a big, huge posse. My uncle, and there was a cousin at one point, and there was a bunch of us in there, and I was the youngest. So funny enough, everybody was there. So there was the 4 of me and my 3 siblings, my 2 parents, my uncle, and then my aunt, and at least 4 of her kids were all in this house for extended periods of time, like over the years. And then whatever family members or church members would drop in and hang out or sleep over for a weekend or here or there, whatever it is. But I was surrounded by so many people. And then what happened is that these people slowly went about their business, and as people should. But remember, when you're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and people are moving away after living with you for 2 years, it's like a piece of you goes away, especially when, these people make you feel like they care about you and stuff like that. And people go off to do their lives. Like somebody may go off and get married, or someone may go off and buy a house and they have to move far away for them to be able to afford that house. But as a kid, all you see is them moving away. Or sometimes, these people were into certain things, and you try to get into it because, I'm part of your tribe, I'm part of your family, and, I want to do that too, whatever it is. And sometimes you get left by the wayside because, people are just living their lives. It's not that they're trying to offend you, little guy, but, you don't understand these things and you move on. And sometimes you move on with animosity or hurt for people who supposedly hurt you, but you don't even know really why, or there's no real legitimate reason why is the best thing, because you probably do know why. And so, yeah, I did actually explain that. And then I got into saying to him, I was talking about a serious situation in the family. And I said that, I'm not good, so I understand if people feel this way and that way, I'm not good. And he repeated, he said, you're not good. And I said, no, I'm not good. I'm sweet, because I guess I had to add a little something to it. And I'm not even sure if I was fully thinking it through. But then I like the sound of that, and it's funny when you go back to, it was my last episode, and I was talking about the Big 5 assessment, and that was like your openness, your agreeableness, and the other aspects to psychology of people to figure out the different aspects of a person, and even to figure out why you have this different issues this way and that way. And I said, I'm not good. I'm not a good person, because you know your thoughts. You know yourself better than anybody could possibly know you. And I said, I'm sweet, as I said. And the conversation kind of chucked off into another area, but I never really got back talking about it until when I was talking to someone today. And that was my youngest son. And I said, I'm not good. I wonder if you understand what that means. And he wasn't really sure what I meant. But, sometimes people say, people are good. I believe people are good and they mean the best and blah, 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 blah. But I said, no, I'm not good. And it would be nice if I had the conversation on mic, because then you would totally get it. But it's like an apple, right? An apple is good. It can taste good. Sometimes it doesn't. But there's vitamins and minerals. There's fiber, and it's good for your system. You get the vitamins out of it, you get the water out of it, you get the taste out of it. So it's good. And then I said, I'm definitely not an apple. I'm like, if you're looking about goodness, I said I'm sweet though. So then when I said because you still didn't really get it, young guy, and maybe older person would have the same situation. I said, what do we know in this world that's sweet? And he's right off the bat, 11-year-old, whatever. He says, candy. I said, exactly. So does candy taste good? Yep. It's sweet? Yep. Is it good for you? No. And then right off the bat, because this kid's good when it comes to getting nuance, he got it right there. Like, there was pretty much nothing else left to be said, but you understand, hopefully, listeners. Candy is sweet. And as a person, I would say, yes, I I will open the door for you. I'll hold the door open for you. I'll say please and thank you. If you have a question, I'll try to answer it. I'll have a discussion and try to help you hash out a situation. If you need me to lift you up out of the snow, or if you need me to move a piece of furniture, whatever it is, like, I'm going to do those things. But when I say good, I'm more talking about inside your thought processes and the different things that happen inside of you that nobody knows about. But people say, people are good. Okay, I'm going to get back to that in a second. But so getting into it a little bit more, I guess. Let's see. I think of my own sins as a child. And I realize that nobody taught me to do evil. Now, yes, if somebody taught you how to shoot a gun at a person or stab a person or punch a person in the face or exactly how to do a roundhouse to the head to somebody, yeah, you were taught the art or the technique of doing a certain exploit in a certain martial art or fighting, some type of a pugilistic fashion. But who gives you the rage? Who gives you the anger? Who teaches you how to lie? You understand? It's different. So, thinking about that, I look to my youth and things that I'm not proud of. I say to you, what's in your closet? Or what's in your wallet? I look, and I look to that scripture that says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And people say, well, what is sin? Or does sinning make you good or bad or whatever? But yes, the word sin, it really refers to the term of missing the mark. And we all miss the mark. But as I said, beyond that, it's think about you as a child. When you thought you were going to get in trouble and you could figure out how to weasel your way out of it because you didn't want to get in trouble, you didn't want to get spanking, or you didn't want to get grounded, or you didn't want to get shouted at. Like, I obviously know there are exceptions to every rule. Some people will say, I never lie, just tell it like it is, but I don't care what's going to happen. Well, there's probably something on the other side that's wrong with you, but I can tell you the average person already has it. And I'm not saying anything's worse than anybody else, but the point is that most people will lie to get out of a punch in the eye or spanks with a belt, or a parent screaming at them, or a grounding, or a you can't go to recess. Or do you understand? Like, most kids just have that inside of them. And it's the same reason why, as a 2-year-old, they call it what do they call it when you're 2 and you're rolling around in the in the mall on the floor, screaming and having a tantrum. They call it the terrible twos. It's in us. Nobody teaches that. And that's why when you look at the scripture and it says, for all have sinned, we all have those things in us. And obviously, as we become more intelligent, more mature, those things are still going to be in us. We'll just be a little bit more technically savvy in how we express our anger. We may not roll around on the floor at the mall, or we may not lash out and just hit anybody at any time. Think about a kid who's angry. 2-year-old will slap. It doesn't matter if you look like the Incredible Hulk or if you look like Bambi. A 2-year-old anger will swat anybody. Whereas obviously when you get older, you realize I may not want to hit the big bodybuilder guy because he might pound the life out of me. Do you understand? So I just believe that stuff's in us. But yeah, the sweetness is there, like the candy. Tastes amazing. It was so nice for you to boost that person's car that was stuck in the mall parking lot, or it was so nice of you to carry the bags across the street for the old lady. But the guy who just carried the bags across for the old lady might have just stabbed somebody in the in the alleyway and just happened to like that the fact that this person was the same culture them. So sure, I'll help you do this, but they just did something evil on the other side, or they just have an evil intent. Or maybe, as I was speaking about the old lady, maybe the person was actually thinking of robbing the old lady, but for some reason said, you know what, I'm going to get somebody else because the lady said hi and didn't ignore me like the rest of the people in society seem to. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when you're sitting inside a classroom or in a church and you're supposed to be focusing on the music, but all of a sudden your mind goes and drifts off somewhere else into some kind of an evil thing, and you have to pull yourself back and say, no, why am I thinking about lying about my work tomorrow because I'm not feeling good right now and I think I want to have another day off because of, do you understand, like, the different things that trail, you. So yeah, I'm speaking exactly to you. You know your mind. You know how your mind wanders. You know the things that you've thought of saying, or the things that you would never say but bounce around in your head. And the best example I always say, yeah, take it back to when you're young, because that was the time when you were the most innocent. You didn't know a thing about this world, or the little things that you knew couldn't compare. Now, I understand as we get older and we learn more to realize the less we actually know. But you know what I mean. Back when you couldn't drive a car, you could barely tie your shoelace or put your pants on, like those times. And think about the little evil, wicked things that you either thought about or did. And when I bring it to myself, I think about stealing money out of my dad's wallet in the closet. I think I grabbed a $2 or a $5. I think I maybe went up to even a $5. There might have been a few hundred in there, a bunch of, and I know if I'm going to ask for money for it's really a dumb thing for me when I think about it, because back then, I would, a bag of chips is 35 cents or a pop is 25 cents. So I could definitely get what I wanted from what he would normally give me. But for some reason, it's like, I didn't want to ask. I just took. I could get over the awkwardness of saying, Dad, do you have 25 cents? I could just go grab the wallet and just pluck it out of there. Then he doesn't have to turn. My dad, as I think about him, and remember, I'm talking about my dad, who I love. So like, I know some people are probably thinking, oh man, you really hate your father while you stole out of his wallet. No. As it turns out, I loved my dad, and my dad was probably my best friend growing up until he got sick and then he passed away and stuff. But I'm talking about when I was like 10, 11, 9 or something. I can't remember what it was. But, the whole conversation just didn't have to happen. I could just go grab it. And I did that maybe 3 or 4 times, I think. And, I think back to that and I was saying, like, nobody taught me to steal. Nobody taught me to take, like, there was nothing that I remember in my history that would say that, yeah, somebody literally told me What is IMCM? Yo, what's up? Check it out. Now, I know that you were listening. Hopefully you were listening, but check it out. That was part 1 of this. And this is going to be a new thing where I try not to bore people for a whole hour on end. Well, at least some people. So you know what you can do? Come back in and check out. It'll be under the same name. It'll be part B. Okay, so this will be part 1. And then just look out for part B of this episode. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. MCM out. You're probably right. Take care. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 dogs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while, understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.